Have you been feeling a little off lately? Like something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Just like physical health, our mental and emotional well-being shifts over time, and sometimes those shifts are trying to tell us something. The truth is, you don't have to be diagnosed with a mental illness to feel like you're struggling inside. We all have limits. We all feel overwhelmed. And yes, we all have moments where things start to unravel. That's why it's so important to check in with yourself, to ask, how am I really doing? In this video, we'll walk through 10 subtle but serious signs that your mental health might be slipping, even if everything looks fine on the outside. If any of these sound familiar, don't worry. You're not broken. You're not alone. And there are ways to feel better again, one small step at a time. Let's take a deep breath and begin. 1. You're losing interest in the little things. Have you noticed that things you once enjoyed, like your favorite show, a walk in the park, or even your morning coffee, suddenly feel dull? When your mental health begins to slip, one of the first signs is often a subtle loss of interest in the small joys of everyday life. The moments that once brought you comfort or happiness may now feel flat or meaningless. This isn't laziness, and it's not just a passing mood. It could be your mind's way of signaling that it's under too much pressure, too much noise, or simply quietly overwhelmed. Sometimes this kind of emotional numbness is linked to depression. Other times, it's the weight of chronic stress wearing down your ability to feel present or excited. If you're noticing this shift in yourself, take it seriously. Not with fear, but with care. Reach out to someone you trust. Even a simple conversation can begin to lift the fog. You don't have to go through this alone. And joy isn't lost. It may simply be waiting to be felt again. 2. You get overwhelmed easier than usual. Have small tasks started to feel like massive obstacles? Maybe your to-do list only has 3 things on it, but it feels like 30. Even deciding what to eat or replying to a message feels like too much. This kind of overwhelm doesn't always mean something big has gone wrong, but it does mean your mental load is heavy. When our minds are stretched by chronic stress, emotional pressure, or unspoken worries, even the simplest things can feel unbearable. You may find yourself avoiding decisions, putting things off, or just freezing altogether. And that's not because you're lazy or broken. It's your nervous system saying, I need a break. Psychotherapists often describe this as a sign that your internal resources are low, and your brain is using overwhelm as a signal flare. What can help? Try starting with small grounding habits. Journaling what's in your head. A few minutes of quiet breathing. Even just drinking water and pausing for one mindful moment. And above all, remind yourself you're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're human. And right now, you might just need a little more care than usual. And that's okay. 3. You don't feel like socializing that much anymore. Have you found yourself avoiding messages, canceling plans, or even dreading conversations, even with the people you love? Maybe you tell yourself you're just tired or busy, but deep down it feels like being around others takes more energy than you have to give. This kind of withdrawal can be one of the quieter signs that your mental health is struggling. While needing alone time is perfectly normal, especially for introverts, there's a big difference between choosing solitude and feeling emotionally disconnected. When you no longer find comfort in the people or connections that once supported you, it's worth pausing to ask, what am I protecting myself from? Am I isolating because I feel unsafe, misunderstood, or just too drained? The truth is, the less we connect, the more disconnected we tend to feel. And while solitude can heal, isolation can slowly deepen the pain. If this sounds familiar, start small. You don't need to go to a party or open up deeply. Try texting a friend just to say hi, or sitting beside someone you trust, in silence. You don't need to explain yourself, but you also don't have to disappear. Connection doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes just showing up in whatever way you can is more than enough. 4. Your sleep schedule is all over the place. Have your nights started blending into mornings, and your mornings into late afternoons? Maybe you've been going to bed later and later, or waking up feeling like you didn't sleep at all. Sometimes it's sleeping too much. Other times, not enough. Disrupted sleep isn't just a physical issue. It's a powerful signal from your mental and emotional systems. When your mind is unsettled, anxious, or overworked, Rest becomes difficult. The body stays tense. The thoughts don't quiet down. Over time, poor sleep can deepen feelings of sadness, fatigue, and disconnection, creating a cycle that's hard to break. You might find yourself feeling guilty about it. But please know, this isn't about laziness. It's about imbalance. And the good news, even small changes can help you find your rhythm again. Start simple. Try going to bed and waking up around the same time each day. Turn off screens at least 30 minutes before sleep. Create a bedtime ritual. A warm drink, soft music, light stretching, and if your mind is noisy, try writing down your thoughts before lying down. Sleep is not a luxury. It's the foundation of healing. You deserve deep, restful sleep, and it's okay if it takes time to get back there. 5. You always feel drained, even after rest. Do you ever wake up after a full night's sleep, but still feel like you haven't rested at all? You've eaten well, tried to relax, maybe even taken a day off, but the heaviness doesn't go away. This kind of exhaustion goes beyond being tired. It's not something a nap can fix. It's emotional and mental fatigue, the kind that builds when you've been holding in too much for too long. When your brain is under constant pressure, from work, relationships, worries, or even unspoken fears, it burns energy in the background, non-stop. Eventually, that wears you down, leaving you with an empty tank, no matter how much you try to refill it. This feeling of depletion is valid. It's not weakness. It's not in your head. It's your body and mind saying, please pay attention. Please slow down. What helps? Start with permission. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to say no. Permission to take space for stillness, silence, or softness. Also, reflect on what drains you emotionally and what restores you. Sometimes healing begins not just by adding more rest, but by gently removing what's weighing you down. You don't have to carry it all, and you don't have to carry it alone. 6. Your anxiety seems to be increasing. Do you wake up with a tight feeling in your chest, even before the day begins? Do small things that never used to bother you now leave you feeling panicked or tense? Anxiety can build slowly, until suddenly it's everywhere. Sitting with you at breakfast, walking beside you throughout the day, whispering doubts at night. It's a common part of being human. But when anxiety begins to affect how you function, feel, or connect, it may be a sign your mental health is under deeper strain. You might notice physical signs too. Racing heartbeat, shallow breathing, occasional nausea, or that wired but tired sensation, where your body is exhausted but your mind won't stop spinning. You don't have to ignore it. You don't have to push through it alone. Instead, try to pause and ask yourself, what's really at the center of this anxiety? Is there a need I'm not meeting? A fear I haven't named? Mindful breathing, grounding exercises, or talking to someone you trust can begin to release the grip. Anxiety is not who you are, it's something you're experiencing. And even if it feels overwhelming right now, it doesn't have to stay that way. You are allowed to find peace again. One breath, one pause, one safe moment at a time. 7. You feel mentally and emotionally scattered. Do you feel like your mind is constantly jumping from one thing to another, but nothing really sticks? You start one task, then another, then lose track of both. Your emotions feel all over the place. One minute you're okay, and the next you're on the verge of shutting down. This kind of mental scattering often happens when we've been living in survival mode for too long, navigating stress, pressure, or unresolved emotions without enough space to truly process them. When we don't feel safe or stable inside, our minds reflect that. Thoughts swirl, emotions bounce, and it feels impossible to center ourselves. If this sounds familiar, take a breath. You're not broken, you're overwhelmed, and it's okay to slow down. Try this. Sit for a moment with both feet on the ground. Place a hand over your heart. Close your eyes and just feel the breath moving in and out. You don't have to fix everything right now. You just have to come back to one simple truth. You're here. You're breathing. You're allowed to feel what you feel and still find your way back to center. Stability isn't something we force. It's something we gently rebuild from the inside out. 8. You can't seem to pay attention. Have you been reading the same paragraph over and over without absorbing a single word? Do you find yourself zoning out in conversations, forgetting what you were about to say, or losing track of tasks midway through? Losing focus like this can feel frustrating, especially if it's not something you've struggled with before. It might leave you questioning your abilities or feeling guilty for being unproductive. But in truth, this lack of focus is often your brain's way of saying, I'm overloaded. Stress, anxiety, burnout, and emotional fatigue can all cloud your cognitive clarity. When your mental health is strained, it becomes harder to process and retain information. Your attention span shortens, your mind drifts, not because you don't care, but because you're tired. Instead of blaming yourself, try approaching this gently. Your brain is asking for rest, not judgment. Give yourself permission to slow down. Break tasks into smaller steps. Take short pauses. Create quiet space, even just 5 minutes, where your mind doesn't have to perform, but simply be. Focus will return. But like everything else in healing, it begins with compassion, not pressure. Be patient with your mind. It's doing its best with what it has. 9. You might be struggling with your impulse control. Lately, have you caught yourself doing things on impulse, even when you know they don't truly serve you? Maybe it's endless scrolling, emotional spending, binge-watching shows late into the night, or reaching for comfort foods when you're not even hungry. These actions might offer brief relief or distraction, but afterward you're left feeling empty, guilty, or confused. Struggling with impulse control doesn't mean you lack discipline or willpower. More often, it's a sign that something deeper inside is asking for your attention. When we feel overwhelmed, stressed, or emotionally disconnected, our brains crave quick fixes, little bursts of dopamine to temporarily numb the discomfort. It's a coping mechanism, a way to feel something or to avoid feeling everything. Start by noticing the pattern without judgment. What's happening right before the impulse arises? Is there a trigger, an emotion, a thought? Once you identify the pattern, you can begin to shift it. Instead of reacting automatically, pause, breathe. Ask yourself gently, what do I really need right now? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to become more aware. And the more awareness you bring, the more power you'll have to respond, not just react. You're not out of control. You're just learning to reconnect. 10. You are struggling to feel grounded. Do you feel like you're floating through your days, disconnected from yourself, your body, or the present moment? Maybe you're constantly in your head, or life feels blurry, like you're watching it from the outside. This sense of being ungrounded is more common than you think, especially during periods of stress, transition, or emotional overwhelm. It often shows up as restlessness, confusion, a sense that you can't find your footing even when everything around you seems normal. When you're not grounded, small things feel destabilizing. Decisions become harder, emotions become louder, and your sense of self, your trust in your own presence, feels far away. Grounding is about coming back into your body, your breath, and your connection with the present. It doesn't require anything elaborate, just intention. Start with something simple and sensory. Walk barefoot on grass. Hold a warm cup of tea with both hands. Take 3 slow, deep breaths and feel your feet on the floor. Sit still and notice your surroundings, textures, colors, sounds. The more you return to your body and the moment you're in, the more safety and steadiness you'll begin to feel. Grounding isn't about having it all figured out. It's about remembering, right here, right now. I exist. I am safe. I am home.